Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia. So a lot happened in the last episode. I'll try and sum it up. I mean, there was the situation with Haruka-san, how she is embarrassed by what's going on. She doesn't want to eat because of what she's embarrassed about. There was the weird scene involving Kazuki sucking up the blood from Amane. Don't worry about that part though. And then there was also the issue where the rations are getting, it's a little low, and, it's time to start considering, we might need to slow down on those who are holding everyone back. And while that may sound really fucked up and just, pretty much just fucked up, I mean, everyone is like what else can you do? I mean, people are like in terrible condition. At this rate, everyone's gonna die, so I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain, but I did get a comment. I've not done this in a long time with this or anything else, but I'd like to point out a comment that was put on the last episode that actually kind of talks about this. So why are you like this? Commented and saying you really captured one of the things that makes Angelic Howl so great. While the story itself is also very gripping, it serves as a framework for the larger theme of morality, what people are willing to do when pushed to their physical and mental limits, and how far we can go with such actions and still call ourselves human. Some of Amane's monologues later analyze this issue really well, which is something that couldn't quite be translated into the anime. Thought that was a really nice comment. Not only did it compliment me actually saying something very good here in an episode, but yeah, I mean, morality really does play a part in this, and we're starting to see that. So, the captain is coming in. Shit, that's loud. The captain's coming in, suggesting something that is sort of unhuman, or inhuman, but, like, do you go against your moralities and do something that kind of makes sense? Who knows? I guess we'll see what happens here. We're in the 8th day. So, the 8th day in the valley. Rain fell in the night, and the morning was cold. My chilled hand trembled slightly as I wrote. Come to think of it, was there even a point to keeping this diary in the first place? Thinking about it would always drain me of the will to write, but I never found an excuse to quit either. My pen moved mechanically across the pages. What the hell? Fortunately, the rain had stopped before today's morning muster. Perhaps I'd become used to being drummed out of bed at the same time every morning, as recently I was waking up naturally 15 minutes before 6. For the first few days, it had been difficult to sleep at night because of my hunger, but by now I was sleeping like a stone, and fasting at night actually seemed to make waking up in the mornings easier. That said, getting out of bed once awake was growing increasingly difficult. I had no choice but to spend 15 minutes in bed, waiting for my blood pressure to rise until I could stand up without instantly becoming lightheaded. Now, that's terrible when you think about it. These guys are really, they're being pushed to the limits. They really are. This morning, Professor Kazami's tour of inspection proceeded as usual. The valley was shrouded in a cold, damp mist. As we made our way around the examination line, many of the girls were swaying unsteadily on their feet, their bodies still not fully awake.
Ohayo, Ibuki-san. 今朝の体調はどうかしら?
まあ、ぼちぼちです。
I don't think anyone at this point is just feeling good.
疲れた顔をしているわね。私たちがここへ来て今日で何日目だったかしら?
8日目?
At least she's able to answer.
そう、8日目。今朝は寒いわね。昨日と比べてどっちが寒い?
昨日はそんなに寒くなかったと思うけど、むしろ暑かったぐらいで。
I'm pretty sure Kazuki is basically asking these questions to see if she answers in an understanding way, to see if her brain is still working.
そうね。お母様はお元気? 今年でおいくつになられたのかしら?
何急に?
いいから教えてくださらない?
母は、多分元気。今年で42歳。
この子の名前は?
Kazuki grabbed my arm and pulled me over.
あまね。
名字を教えてくれる？そうよ。だいぶ疲れが溜まっているみたいね。無理もないわ。私たちがここへ来て今日で何日目だったかしら。
Oh my god. That's scary. Oh my god.
考えるのが面倒になった？でも考えて。今日は何日目？
What?
4日目。
Oh my god, dude. This is getting kind of scary, actually.
あらびっくり。ウェルニッケ脳症かしら。チアミン不足ね。
Smiling brightly, Kazuki leaned over and softly whispered into my ear.
今から言うことをメモして。
I hastily brought my pen to the memo pad. Chronic Wernicke's, I cannot pronounce that. I'm sorry guys, I'm not even gonna try. Symptoms of Korsakoff's dementia. Serious thiamine, vitamin B1 deficiency. We knew it was a vitamin deficiency. We knew it had grown serious, but that diagnosis wasn't much good to us. We didn't have any needles, and more importantly, we didn't have any dietary supplements to fill them with. Of course, I don't really know if I said that right, regimen with lots of pork, liver, and milk could have done the job as well, but we didn't have enough food to satisfy even our basic caloric requirements. The only thing we could do for Ibuki was give her an encouraging thump on the shoulder.
耐えろ。
And express the hope her youthful resilience would pull her through. None of this was limited to Ibuki Haruna either. The majority of the group was beginning to suffer from vitamin deficiencies. Light fever, joint pains, and shortness of breath were widespread. After our standard round of inspections came to an end, everyone dragged themselves right back to their tents. The morning was unpleasantly cold, and the pervasive sense of physical exhaustion didn't help either. Nobody wanted to wander off into the humid forest, where the chilly fog hung thick as a cloud. By the time noon rolled around, the temperature had risen dramatically, and people began to crawl out of their stuffy tents in search of cool air. For another thing, we needed to dry our sleeping bags and mats in the sun, as they grow damp from the humid night air and our sweat. Like the others, I pulled the bedding out of our tent and spreading them out on a long, flat rock nearby. Naturally, I took Kazuki's as well. I began to beat the sleeping bags with a tree branch, dust and dead mites flying out in little clouds with every impact. Wow. My stomach growled miserably at the exercise. Just as Kazuki declared yesterday, she had begun to add much of her rations to Hiruka's meals. Of course, this was being kept secret from Hiruka-san herself. At this rate, Kazuki wouldn't last long. When I told her I was worried, she laughed off my worries with some cliché about starving samurai making particularly leisurely use of their toothpick, then added that a leader doesn't need to eat. They just need to act like they're eating. The words had given me a bit of a start. It was certainly true that everyone was relying on Kazuki, but I was surprised she'd come to think of herself as a leader. All of a sudden, I'd heard someone shouting in a clearly angry tone of voice, and my hand stopped in mid-swing. Sound carries well through humid air. The bellowing voice of our team's advisor, Mr. Ochi, reverberated impressively around the rock valley.
盗んだのは誰だ？俺の荷物から食料を盗んだ者は正直に名乗り出ろ！
I'm pretty sure this is like one of the first times that we are ever hearing this man speak. This is the first time we're seeing his sprite for sure. Maybe he spoke earlier, maybe like once or twice, but this is like the first time we're actually hearing some sentences, I'm pretty sure. I didn't understand the exact details, but apparently someone had stolen food from Mr. Ochi's personal belongings. In the distance, I saw him lifting his rucksack high in the air, his face flushed red, I almost said flustered, but I guess that's the same thing, with anger. Glancing around the area, I found the others who had left their tents fixedly studying the ground, carefully avoiding eye contact with our teacher. Kaneda-senpai, still focused on scraping out the burnt grains of rice stuck in the corners of her cooker, softly mumbled, "What a joke," without even raising her head.
誰なんだ。今正直に名乗り出れば処分を考えないでもないぞ。
先生の勘違いじゃないんですか？
そんなことはない。
一体何がなくなったというんですか？
それは。
Yes it is. We kinda need to know what was stolen so maybe we can search around. Mr. Ochi stumbled awkwardly over his words. From the looks of things, the missing food had probably been something he'd hidden away instead of contributing to the common stock.
とにかくこの中の誰かが盗んだのは間違いないんだ。
Hey, don't change the fucking subject. I don't like this guy either. Even now, his shouts bore the righteous, authoritative tone of a scolding teacher. But we weren't in the classroom. His students responded only with irritated scowls. Of course, I also furrowed my brow at Mr. Ochi's actions. No matter how much he bellowed, it was perfectly obvious the culprit wasn't going to come forward. And in doing so, he was planting the idea of stealing from others in the minds of all the girls who'd been honestly enduring their hunger until now. So if I get hungry, I can just steal food from someone, right? As long as I keep my mouth shut, nobody's gonna find out. And it looks like everybody else is doing it anyway. The only thing Mr. Ochi was accomplishing with this tirade was sowing these dangerous thoughts in the back of our minds. When the single carrot went missing from Koida-senpai's tent earlier, Kazuki had skillfully concealed the incident in order to avoid this exact situation. Now, it was all for naught. Without a doubt, this problem would reoccur in the future. In order for people to live as human beings, 3 basic rules need to be respected. 1. Don't steal. Yeah. 2. Don't destroy. Yeah. 3. Don't... Oh, yeah, these make sense. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't destroy. Yeah, we get it. 3 broad principles that define the minimum standard of ethical behavior. It makes sense. And in our little community, one of those 3 had just been irrevocably broken. Don't steal. They say that liars often end up as thieves, but the opposite is just as true. When we become thieves, we begin to lie, deceiving and deceived in turn. We snatch the food from each other's mouths. Before long, accusations fly. Thefts become brazen, retaliatory, fist fights break out. In the end, some turn to outright violence, attacking others, destroying their property, taking what they want by force. All trust is lost. If things were to reach that stage, it would all be over. None of us would survive. We would destroy ourselves over scraps of food. Kazuki had anticipated this outcome from the very beginning. That afternoon, I was in the forest with Kazuki, gathering edible plants, brooding on the morning's events. I had long since lost track of how many times I had asked her the question on my tongue, but I couldn't help myself.
ねえ、カズキ、私たちこれからどうなるのかな。
14回目。あなたがその質問を私にした回数。
Man, she's a, I want to say a tease, but I don't know if that's the right thing to say here.
いちいち数えてるの？
この質問何回目だっけと聞かれたら答えてあげようと思って。
And Kazuki's reply, too, was the same repetitive phrase as always. What will be, will be. There's no way to know how this will end. She certainly seemed fond of it, but to be honest, I'd always thought it was a bit of a non-answer. Certainly didn't make me feel much better.
越智先生は明日ここを出ていくそうよ。
Why is he leaving?
出ていくってどうして？
数日かけて周辺を調べて、なんとか下山できそうな目処が立ったそうよ。
Apparently, having finally decided just yesterday to leave and get help, Mr. Ochi had been preparing for his departure this morning. During this process, he noticed the hidden food had gone missing from his rucksack.
先生が隠し持っていたのは、合宿の夜にこっそりと楽しんでいた晩酌で、ビールのつまみにと用意していたミニサラミだったらしいわね。
サラミか。
An Italian sausage, ground pork seasoned with spices and cured by drying. I just got a Discord message. I didn't... I'm such a fucking idiot. I totally forgot to go on Do Not Disturb. Preserved food like that would make for ideal rations, as it doesn't go bad easily. You could slice it up thinly and drop it on pizza. Or maybe mince it and mix it into a big plate of pasta. Just imagining the spicy, salty taste left my mouth overflowing with drool.
誰が取ったのかな。
それは重要な問題じゃないわ。越智先生としては誰も名乗り出なかったのがショックだったみたいね。もう限界だって泣きそうな顔をしていたわ。
It makes sense. Things are getting worse. People are stealing. This is like, we're coming to the end, man. That's like the end of the world right there.
そっか。
From the beginning, Mr. Ochi had said he wasn't really cut out for this job. As for why, apparently he simply had a hard time dealing with women in general. Given that his job involved caroling girls at the most emotional stage of adolescence, he found the experience immensely nerve-wracking at the best of times. And now, of all things, he was living under terrible conditions with a pack of desperate girls, increasingly crushed under the pressure of their excessive expectations. Really, it was hardly surprising he'd want to make a break for it as soon as humanly possible.
先生がいなくなったら、私たちどうなるんだろう。
Most likely nothing's gonna change, but our rations are gonna get even lower because we're gonna have to give them a lot of food.
こういう言い方は先生に対して甚だ失礼だとは思うけれど、体制に影響はないと思うわよ。
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the guy wasn't doing much to begin with. I mean, the fact that this is the 8th day, and we just saw his sprite, means there was nothing significant that really happened until now regarding Mr. Ochi, so... I don't know, I mean, I think things are just gonna be, you know, perfectly fine. Well, not perfectly fine. Things aren't gonna change. Things are gonna continue to go in the shitty situation, or in the shitty direction that things have been going in, as usual. Things aren't gonna get much worse. Things are gonna stay the same. Ish. To be sure, Mr. Ochi was never exactly a powerful presence. Even during our normal team activities, I'd always thought of him as more of a cushion between the official authority of the school and the day-to-day management, which was almost entirely handled by our team captain. Still, we had more faith in him than that might suggest. He was an adult with legal responsibility to us, and as a man, he was better physically equipped to handle certain jobs. His presence here had subtly reassuring His presence here had been subtly reassuring in its way, allowing us to slip back into a comforting, passive role of students. And while he wasn't much for stopping our fights, the fact that a teacher was watching acted as a significant check on our behavior. If Mr. Ochi were to leave the camp tomorrow, we'd lose our only real authority figure. Wasn't there a chance his departure could become the spark that would set off a descent into something uglier?
不安だよ、カズキ。
大丈夫よ。もしもの時は私があなたを守ってあげるから。ね。
I'd say that's reassuring, especially, like, I'm honest. From her, hella reassuring. You'd think she was an elder sister calming a frightened younger sibling. Her words were immensely reassuring, but also inspired something very close to shame. It felt as though I'd just forced another responsibility onto Kazuki's overburdened shoulders out of nothing more than pathetic weakness. My face crumpled bitterly, and I could feel tears building behind my eyes.
もしもの時って？
もしもの時はもしもの時。多くは想定外の好ましくない事態に遭遇した状況を指してそう呼びます。
これ以上まだ状況が悪くなるってこと？
Oh, hell yeah, it is. I already know. Everyone here that's watching, that doesn't even know what's to come. I don't really know what's to come. We all know how this is going to end, because Amane is alive in the present. That's beside the fact. We know how things have been going. They're just going to get worse. Food runs out. Alright? And when people don't eat, people... Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about.
まあ、なるでしょうね。でも心配はいらないわ。 もしも何かを犠牲にしなければあなたを守れないという状況になったら、私は全てを犠牲にしてでもあなたを守るから、全然大丈夫。愛し
Aw,
てるわ、アマネ。
that's kind.
嬉しいけど大丈夫だよ。私自分の身は自分で守るから。
あら本当？実は私も自分のことで精一杯な部分もあって、そうしてもらえるとすごく助かるわ。
Kazuki was just affirming my own words, but for some reason it felt like she was abandoning me. All of a sudden, there was a dull pain in my chest.
大丈夫よ。アマネは強い子だから。ね。
Probably not anymore. That's right. I can't let myself stay dependent on Kazuki forever. I wanted her words to be true. I wanted to be strong. Strong enough to help her. Strong enough to protect her. Strong enough to be necessary to her. If I couldn't be strong now, I had the feeling I'd be weak forever, always hiding behind the protection of others, helpless and worthless until the end of helpless and worthless until the end of my days. Sorry about that. We are on to the next day, and it is raining again. Great. The 9th day in the valley. The morning of Mr. Ochi's departure from the camp was, unfortunately, a rainy one.
先生、どうかお気をつけて。
With the exception of the immobile Haruka-san, everyone gathered in the drizzling rain to see our teacher off. Mr. Ochi stood before us, a heavy rucksack on his back, impassive to the water running down his glasses. It felt as though I was looking at a young officer about to head off for the front lines. As a matter of fact, there had been some vaguely sarcastic jokes yesterday about making him one of those 1,000-stitch belt good luck charms the Imperial soldiers used to take to war. But no matter how unreliable Mr. Ochi had been as a teacher, everyone quietly recognized that he was now our only visible glimmer of hope. I wonder if I'm still getting Discord messages, or maybe my imagination is really playing tricks with me. 10 members of the basketball team had survived the fall. Our belt would have come up to a good 990 stitches short. Not to say that we sent him off completely empty-handed, although our gift was less sentimental and more practical. When the rain began to fall this morning, we hastily cut apart trash bags to create a makeshift poncho. These had been a virtual necessity on rainy days, especially before we constructed the toilet, so we had the hang of making them by this point. The poncho offered some protection from the rain while allowing free use of both arms. That's usually how a poncho is. For a short time, at least, it would keep out the wet and prevent your body temperature from falling too dramatically. That said, in the end, it was a pretty flimsy thing. And on a cosmetic level, it was not only distinctly ugly, it made an irritating rustling sound every time you took a step. Nonetheless, Mr. Ochi accepted it with a sincerely grateful thank you.
では行くよ。必ず助けを呼んでくる。それまで、なんとか生き延びてくれ。
With those brief words, Mr. Ochi turned his back on us and immediately began to walk off. Lingering for a long farewell would have been a waste of daylight hours. Once inside the forest, the thick tree canopy would block out most of the sun's light. We knew all too well how poor his visibility would be in this rain, which would soon transform the jungle into a misty, unfamiliar labyrinth. Of course, some suggested postponing any action until the weather improved. But if we delayed over the rain, it felt entirely possible we'd keep finding excuses to put off that first step. Maybe tomorrow it would be too hot, or somebody would feel too sick. Before long, sheer inertia would glue us to our comfortable sleeping bags. Because he understood that, Mr. Ochi had made the firm decision to leave today, regardless of conditions. We watched him marching bravely down toward the forest, unable to keep the unease from our faces. If we'd had little rising sun flags to flap around, we wouldn't have looked out of place in a 60-year-old photograph. But unlike the relatives of those doomed soldiers, our anxiety was accompanied by an undercurrent of guilt. We weren't afraid for our teacher's well-being. We were worried about our own uncertain future.
先生、大丈夫かな?
The words spilled spontaneously out of my mouth. Sakuma-senpai, who'd been standing at my side throughout the little ceremony, glanced over.
まあ正直、あまり期待しない方がいいね。
Sakuma's tone of voice was resigned, almost detached. The first to respond was Ibuki, who had been standing at her partner's side, her limbs shivering in the cold rain.
私たちの食料半分も持って行ったんですよ。
Kaneda-senpai, as always, scratching vigorously away at the bandage on her forehead, gave a little snort of laughter at Ibuki's words.
あれでも一応大学時代はテニス部だったんでしょ？体力はあるんじゃないの？
Being a tennis player then doesn't mean he's a player now. Next in line stood Komori-san, her miniature dog's face peeping out from the neck of her school uniform.
どうしてテニス部だった人がバスケ部の顧問やってるんでしょう。
At Komori's other side, Sakurai was pressing her hands against her stomach wound, bending over slightly to shield it from the rain. As the conversation seemed to be moving neatly down the line, she tentatively opened her mouth and spoke.
大学のテニス部って要は女の子目当てのナンパな男子が集まる部でしょ。冬はスキー部になったりする感じの。
Apparently amused to hear these words from the normally meek and refined Sakurai-senpai, Kazuki chuckled lightly at her side.
その認識で間違ってないところが悲しいわね。
Her eyes fixed on Mr. Ochi as his figure grew small in the distance. Koida-senpai responded to Kazuki's words with an anxious frown.
本当大丈夫なのか
Now that he had set forth, there was nothing more we could do either way. It was in the hands of fate now. Sakuma-senpai gave a wry little snort. Lately, her prowess at playing cards had allowed her to push most of her chores onto others, and her attitude was getting increasingly irrelevant as her leisure time grew.
あとはもう運布添付に任せるしかないね。分の悪い賭けだけど、賭けってのはその方が面白いよ。
Clearly irritated by Sakuma's flippant tone, Captain Sakashita finally broke her silent vigil.
遊びじゃないのよ。くだらない冗談を言っている暇があるなら、他にやるべきことがいくらでもあるでしょ。
Such as...
はいはいごめんよ。
Sakuma's typically indifferent response earned her a brief withering glare. After a moment, the captain turned sharply on her heel and stalked off toward her tent without another word. Heaving a small sigh at this abrupt departure, Koida gave a light nod of acknowledgement to Kazuki, then trotted off to follow her partner.
なんかさ、坂下を見てると、こういう状況でも怒鳴り散らすだけの人間がどれだけ惨めかって思い知らされるよね。
Yikes.
彼女を見ていると、しっかりしなきゃって逆に落ち着いてくるよ。そういう意味では、いい反面教師だ。
Obeying someone simply because they outshout any voices of opposition is the height of foolishness. Over the days we'd spent here, that realization had sunk deeply into our very bones. At moments like these, everyone's gaze would naturally settle on Kazuki. They turned to a freshman, a small girl no taller than 150 centimeters, with eyes of absolute trust. The third years among us were no exception. The vaguely rebellious Sakuma seemed to have concluded in characteristically happy-go-lucky style that when Kazami's around, life's a lot easier. And having essentially entrusted her life to Kazuki as a patient, Sakurai-senpai had even begun to politely address her with an honorific.
言い方はどうあれ、坂下部長の言葉に間違いがないのも事実です。寒暖じみたぶちり合いをしている暇があれば、食べ物を探しましょう。
Oh, I guess that is something good that everyone can do. There was no changing the fact that we'd given half of our already meager stockpile to Mr. Ochi. From today on, our meals would be all the more grimly austere. Even so, he'd only taken enough food for 2 days, along with 2 liters of sterilized water in plastic bottles. From a simple estimate of the calories he'd be consuming and burning, he'd last 4 days at the longest. Although Mr. Ochi had estimated that 3 days of consistent progress would bring him to human habitation, we all knew perfectly well that he wouldn't be able to simply stroll straight through that forest. But he himself was probably more familiar with that harsh reality than any of us, so we kept our silence.
ああ、この雨の中、森に入るのか。何言ってんですか。どうせ森に入ってもフラフラしてるだけで、全然働かないくせに。
方がないよ。私は貴族だからね。
一つお願いがあるんですけど、いいですか？
なんだい？言ってごらんよ。
一度本気で殴らせてください。みんなのために単身森に入った越智先生に代わって先輩を殴ります。
Wow.
それで君の気が晴れるのならそうするといい。
Well,
あまり痛くしないでもらえると助かるかな。
I guess the violence is already starting.
だから髪に触らないでください。
Partially slapping aside Sakuma-senpai's hand, Ibuki stamped off toward the forest alone. That was weird. Watching her partner go, Sakuma spread her arms, turned her palms to the sky, and offered an exaggerated shrug of the shoulders to no one in particular, but soon enough she followed without a word. All said and done, they were a friendly pair.
私らはどうする？
Fiddling with her rain-wet bandage as she brushed her hair out of her eyes, Kaneda-senpai turned to address her partner Komori. Staring down at the dog nestled against her chest, Komori-senpai answered in an apologetic tone of voice.
すみません、今日はアー君の具合が悪いみたいで。
Oh boy.
またかよ。なんかその犬、雨が降るとすぐ体調崩すよね。やっぱあれか？湿度が高いと前髪が決まんなくて超下げなんですけどみたいな感じになんのかね。
まさかそれはないと思いますけど。
まあいいよ、今日は私が行くからさ。あんたは犬と一緒にテントで待ってな。
すみません。
Kaneda set off with broad strides, apparently trying to play up her self-assigned role as the manly big brother of the household. Komori hurried off as well, leaning over the dog in her uniform to shield it from the elements. Well then, what about us? When I glanced over in Kazuki's direction, I was surprised to find Sakurai-senpai still loitering quietly by her side. When our eyes met, Sakurai gave me a gentle smile, then cocked her head slightly to one side as if to say, "Is something the matter?" Staring into her face, I couldn't help thinking she really was a good bit more beautiful than the average pinup you'd find in a cheap men's magazine.
桜井先輩はどうされます？
今までの恩返しもありますし、できれば食材探しに私も参加させてもらえればと。
Ooh, a trio. Why not?
それは助かりますけど、大丈夫なんですか？
はい、お腹の怪我ももうだいぶ良くなってきましたし。
So you say...
ダメよ。
でも
気持ちはわかるしありがたいけれど、今無理をすればまた悪化するわよ。桜井さんはテントに戻って広岡さんについていてあげてください。
つまんない。
食材探しだって別に楽しくはないわ。もともとあなたは体が丈夫ではないのだし、おとなしく私の言うことを聞きなさい。
は
That was a weird sneeze.
今の何？
くしゃみよ。
Wow. What the fuck?
でも今ペキュって言ったよ。
一見すると欠点が少ないように見える桜井さんだけれど、どうにもくしゃみが変なのよね、この人。
Like, I know quite a few people that have weird sneezes, but it's whatever.
気にしてる
いいからさっさとテントに戻りなさい。この上風邪をひいたりしたらまた私の仕事が増えるじゃないの。
のに。はいはい。
Smiling sweetly, Sakurai patted Kazuki on the head, then obediently walked off toward her tent. That is the large tent where Haruka-san was waiting.
桜井先輩、美人だね。
そうね、性格もおとなしいし、本当に欠点の少ない人だわ。もうお腹が出るような水着は着れないと思うけれど。
Yeah. Unfortunately, I guess.
そっか。
As she watched Sakurai-senpai walk away, her thin arms shielding her stomach, Kazuki's profile betrayed a hint of sadness. Sakurai's parents had probably been planning to bring their daughter into the world of show business sooner or later. What would they think when they saw that wound across her belly? An ugly, jagged, dark red gash, discharging pus faster than we could clean and disinfect it? Would they be overjoyed their daughter had at least survived, or hurt by her misfortune?
私たちも行きましょう。そうだね。
When I stared down at the misty jungle, I could see the indistinct shapes of human beings wriggling into the trees in search of sustenance. We were stumbling in fog, nothing to guide us, nothing but the unknown ahead, clawing desperately for survival. How long would this go on? How long until fortune smiled on us? How long until we could rest? What will be will be. There's no way to know how this will end. For now, we just need to do what we can. For now, those words were still enough to keep my feet moving, but I was beginning to feel that the elements of my endurance might be approaching. Even so, as Kazami Kazuki made her way down the valley, the only thought in my mind was to follow her. By now, I'd stopped even considering any other course of action. And it is the next day. Yep, 10th day. Alright, perfect time to end it then. Fantastic. We got 2 days done in one episode. Fantastic. Things are really starting to take some crazy turns, though. I mean, things are starting to get worse here. So, I mean, it may not be as visible, but things are really starting to spiral downward fast. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure you leave a like and subscribe for more. That's it for me today. What am I even saying? Bye, guys.